All right, everybody. Welcome back to We Are the Batman. I'm Mike.
And this is Matthew.
Welcome to our 150th episode live on our YouTube channel. Thank you to the folks who are hanging out with us in the chat right now. We've got Martin Time. We got Jeff Jones. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We also got some jackass named Matthew Hasso. Not sure what he's doing, but welcome in, everybody. We are so glad you guys who are here with us live could be here with us. And if you're listening to this on the replay or watching on the replay, thank you again for that as well.
And it's Martini time, not Martin time. He's a drunk.
The print is so small, and I am so high. I am so high. It's Friday. We've been looking forward to this for a while. We have so many things planned to talk about today. Some things we're going to get to. Mr. Scott Beatty, co-author of Nightwing Year One, Robin Year One, Batgirl Year One, The Voter's Guide to Gotham, and so many other things, is going to be joining us around 8:15, so in about 15 minutes. We're going to react to some stuff, cover some news and stuff. Before we get into all of that, Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I am powering through some emotional things that are happening, so it doesn't matter. I think this is how weird I'm at. This is where I'm at. I went to buy a drink. I got this thing, and I was like, man, that's a tough looking thing. A tough looking, thing. What is that called? Oh, logo?
Logo.
And then
words are hard.
Orange Dreamsicle. And I'm like, wait, what's this other one? Every single one of these, if you look at the name of the thing, it's like blueberry fuzz, watermelon lusciousness. And I'm like,
you're talking to a weed smoker guy. I'm getting stuff that's called a raspberry Skittles with a Z that makes me feel like I'm floating 30 feet in the air while I watch Transformers 1 for the 30th time, because that movie rules. Shout out to Martini Time, who says, do not diss the Dreamsicle.
Hey, it's good. I just think it's funny that you've got this Spartan helmet with the most
you've got a Decepticon logo over something called
Orange Dreamsicle.
Yeah. What's the line from the movie Ted, where he pulls a beer out of the fridge and he's like, Michelob Ultra Island Grapefruit, America's imploding. But yeah, man, I'm good, man. Dude, I got this dope new phone case. I don't know if I showed you or not. I got this cool new phone case.
Sweet.
Really cool. I'm good, man. It's been busy. We last week The Voice was back finally, so this is like the first full week of doing stand-up I've had in months. So nice. It's more just getting used to being out late again. So I'm closer to 40 than I am to 30. So that gets harder and harder to do, especially when you work, a 9 to 5. So
yeah.
But no, I'm good, man. I've been watching a whole bunch of random stuff. Like I said, Transformers 1's streaming on Prime right now, so I've been watching that a bunch because of the rules.
Yes.
Grossly mismarketed. Marketed as such a kid's film. Yeah. I thought it was going to be such a kid's movie, and woof, just blown away at how good that movie is.
You know what? I know what I want to tell you. This was cool. So I think I sent you a picture. I was watching The Shadow last night.
Yeah.
And Race has been so checked out on all kinds of superhero stuff. And I'm like, just
how old
watch
is he?
The movie. He's 12.
That's why. Yeah.
And I was like, just watch the movie. So he sits down, we start watching it, and I'm like, bro, look, this is how you enter a room. Just watch this scene. It's that part where he walks in and he's just like, I'm Alec Baldwin. I'm blah blah. And
I'm going to do something really troubling on a movie set in a few years.
Hey, what's up, Nerdy Brew?
Nerdy Brew, Matt Man. Yo, I'm gonna change the way that banner goes. You keep talking.
But as the movie go on, something would happen. He'd be like, bro, what are you doing? Or what is that? And then the more the movie went on, the more he's like, I think Shadow's about my favorite superhero right now. And then he just kept watching. And then at the very end, he was like, dude, that CGI was kind of weird. He's like, but yeah, the Shadow's now my favorite superhero.
The Shadow is one of those characters I really wish I could see interact with John Constantine in some way. I really do.
Yeah. And then he's like, he kind of reminds me of Batman. I'm like, well, he predates Batman, and kind of got into that conversation of actually, Batman steals all his stuff from the Shadow, and he's just like, oh, so it was just this weird moment of
Batman went up to the Shadow and Zorro and was just like, I'll take that, and I'll take
Yeah.
that, and I'll take that. And
Yeah.
it's just a martini time. Did they kill the Constantine sequel? I honestly don't know. I keep hearing, more smoke than fire rumors, mostly from Keanu Reeves, and I think it's the original director saying they're on to something. I mean, I would imagine as long as they get a script. I mean, James Gunn has already said, like, we're down for Elseworlds shit. Just give me a script. That being said, considering they're talking about bringing Swamp Thing into the DCU, with Swamp Thing, therefore comes Constantine in some way. I who's to say? So whether or not they've killed it, I don't know. Matt, what do you got? You got to look in the face.
So this is what I'll say about this. I would love for Keanu Reeves to come back as Constantine.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I think it'd be really cool. Given the weird thing that's happening with Matt Reeves, the Batman, I think having high name talent like Keanu Reeves do a Constantine movie that could potentially compete with a Constantine concept James Gunn already has, I think is going to get kind of pushed to the side, like what's happening with the Batman Matt Reeves thing.
Well, but see, I still push back on you on that. I still don't think they're shuffling his Batman. I truly, because even Robert Pattinson has come out and said, like, yeah, I think I'm still playing Batman. Like, just waiting for him to get the script. We've talked ad nauseum about this. So,
but that is my thing. I think if James Gunn has a solid plan and he wants to bring in a more quote unquote comic accurate Constantine, I don't know if we get what's it called, a Constantine sequel with somebody like Keanu Reeves star, because if you get Keanu Reeves to come back as Constantine, no one's going to give two craps about whatever James Gunn did as a Constantine.
No, and also like Batman is a character that's big enough. You can have two different versions of Batman going on at the same time, and no one's going to care. You know what I mean? Constantine, not so much. Like he's got. I was waving to
Felipe. Sorry, that was weird.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, Felipe toilet, but he's got a picture of a poop. So I can't read today. Yeah,
you want me to read the names?
No, yeah, maybe. Because we also have on the Sandman show, Jenna Coleman playing Joanna Constantine, a different, same character, just gender bent for the sake of copyright. So, and Jeff Jones says true, but most of you have you look, the more the merrier. I ain't mad about it. Even if they want to go the route of an animated one, I wouldn't be mad at that. That they did the direct to DVD Constantine one with Matt Ryan that was animated. That was City of Demons. It was really dark, but really good. Really enjoyed that one a lot. So, I mean, I'm never mad about more Constantine. I'm not going to say no. I watch that movie all the time.
Hey, I almost watched it last night. What did I watch instead? The Shadow. Okay. Anyway,
I was telling you before we came on. I watched. They also have the Robert Richard Fleischer Superman cartoon streaming, and it's one of those like, that animation is like melted butter smooth.
Mm-hmm.
But in the second episode, they introduce his X-ray vision. And it is straight up nightmare fuel. Like they zoom in on his face, which first of all, the animation on his face looks like a meme. It looks like a meme. I don't know how to describe it. It looks like a meme. And like his eyes like straight up roll back into his head. And then like these like fake gray pupils come out. And then just like what I can only describe as like wobbly white pancakes come flying out of his eyes. And that's his X-ray vision. And I was like, it was the 40s. We hadn't quite figured everything out yet.
Well, and it's also interesting to think like those cartoons were not exactly for kids. They played in the movie theater before a movie, like with the serials and stuff. So it's not like you're trying to be like, oh, cool, Saturday morning. Like those things are dark and they're awesome, but also wacky as all get out because it's the 40s.
Well, and there's also no lore to speak of. I mean, the very first episode is like, on the planet Krypton, where their whole race had grown into great beings of supermen, and the young boy was found on the side of the road and given to an orphanage, where he suddenly discovered he had superhuman strength, and it's like, You know, it's yeah. I hate how well I can do that voice. I really do. I hate how good I am.
I need
at that
you to do
impression.
that every time you do one of the ads for this podcast. Everybody in the comments say whether he should do that.
Here's what's going to happen. If we get sponsored, I will do all of our ads in the 40s spark plug advertisement guy. I promise. But like, we need sponsors. We need.
Hey, what's up, The Truth?
The True 31. Hello. Nice profile pic. Love the Nightwing. Love the Nightwing.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much. I did give up on Constantine's show, but you know, here's the thing I'll say about the show. I have the first half season of that show on DVD, on Blu-ray. I am a defender of that season ish of television, if not for nothing than just for Matt Ryan. And it was clear they were trying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it reeked of studio interference, but it was really clear they were trying. And the less said about what happened to him on Legends of Tomorrow, the better. But yeah, Matt Ryan forever would not be mad.
Yeah.
And I like this idea of different franchise, but I keep watching Werewolf by Night. Yeah, like if they were to do something similar to that, like give me, you know, we know Punisher is getting one.
Yeah.
Here, so you know, the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. More stuff like that. I'm down for if DC wants to do those. We know we're getting this Jason Todd, Dick Grayson, Robin Red, whatever
dynamic duo or something.
Whatever
like
that's going to end up being, coming from the Wallace and Gromit people.
I didn't know that part. I'm
you
in
didn't know
no
that
matter
part?
what.
I think so. Please tell me I got that right. I got that right?
If they fight that duck, I'm in 1,000%.
Oh, I know, right?
Just saying.
I know. I swear I read that was from the Wallace and, or am I conflating my news stories? I could be conflating my news stories.
You know, for now, we're gonna keep with that.
Yeah. Speaking of conflating my news stories, you know, there's no easy way to really talk about this, but we'd be remiss if we didn't before we get into things. Clive Revill, who was the voice, who's a long, illustrious acting career, but
was he -5?
Did I put in 1925? I'm going to take that down. Wow. Anyway,
I love you, buddy. I'm sorry. Maybe I should have said
Jesus Christ on a crutch. But
fix it while I talk.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Clive Revill has a really long career in film. And
yeah, please talk a little bit.
Yeah,
while I
Clive Revill had an amazing career. He was in Zora the Gay Blade, which we were talking about before we started recording.
Not seen it.
I know you got to watch it.
Yeah.
And then he was also in. I mean, he was in a ton of movies back then.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think you've said it before. Is like there's never been a bad Alfred.
Nope.
I mean, yeah. The casting has always been on point. The acting on whoever they've gotten has been great. Say what you will about Snyder's, whether you love it or hate it. Jeremy Irons as Alfred was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
He died at 95.
Yeah, 95 years old. Thank you. There we go. Thank you. Well, but also, like, you know, when you think about characters or versions of Alfred, like in Gotham or whatever, you know, we can never remember. But Clive Revill, like similar to the way we talked about with Kevin Conroy, you know, is what is kind of like establishing that voice you think of in your head of as when you think of Batman. So therein lies Clive Revill as Alfred. It really is just an absolute, you know, I hate to say bummer, because it wasn't like this was a career cut short or a life cut short. He had a long, illustrious, full career that just really, you know, brought a lot of, he was there to be Batman's moral compass, and then by way the audience's moral compass, because as Batman learns the lessons, you know, it's a kid's show. Well, therefore the audience gets to learn those lessons as well. And Alfred was there to be that voice of reason for us growing up.
And he did a great job at it. So
yes, he did.
No
easy way to transition in and out of that, but yeah.
Some prayers out to his family, our condolences to all of them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Roof, for everything. Other than that, as we wait for Mr. Beatty to join us, not been a whole lot else. You know, we're gonna get into all the comics and stuff here in a little bit, but
the truth just put something up. Let's talk about this with the spoiler thing.
Oh, some ale scooper revealed a major casting spoiler on Twitter. I don't know what for, and I don't care what for. I don't want to know.
Yeah, don't tell us what it was. But you are correct.
Yeah. Be careful on social media, guys. There's spoilers and stuff everywhere. You never know what you're going to find out there. You never know who you're going to find out there. Every once in a while, you will find friendship, and every once in a while, you will find someone who is a comic book writer and author. Who has been a guest on this podcast before, who is looking around the monitor, looking to see who it is, and it is himself, Mr. Scott Beatty.
Yay! What's up,
thank
sir?
you for rejoining us once again, sir. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We are glad to have you back. We had you on for like a 2-hour conversation last time to talk about.
I couldn't shut up.
No, it wasn't you.
But yeah, we're thrilled to have you back for some time tonight. So thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Well, last time we had you on, you were celebrating a big celebration with Nightwing Year One, getting its anniversary collected release. What have you been up to in the time since then? Anything exciting?
Nothing I can talk about currently, but hopefully, like sometime soon, I can share with you. Maybe talk to you guys about it. But
That'd be cool.
No, just kind of basking in last year's Nightwing Year One 20th anniversary, and the box with all of the Year Ones gathered together for the first time. So
so cool. My comic book
stuff.
store has one on display in the corner in their DC section. It's so cool to look at every time I go in there.
Yeah,
I read. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, it's. I was just happy that. I mean, for God's sake, for crying out loud. I mean, they were first published starting in 2001. So just the longevity. I'm so happy that people keep reading it. Grateful.
Yeah, and for those people who are joining us tonight who don't know, we actually got in contact with him because we randomly started doing the Year One collections, and someone said somebody's name wrong, so he had to get corrected.
Man, why you gotta bring that up? Why you gotta? Man, we were 17 minutes and 20 seconds into this thing without bringing that up. Wow, the Nerdy Bruce says, "Wowzers, 20 years. I remember reading that at Barnes and Noble."
Wow.
Oh man, that's a great feeling. Does that give you a good feeling inside when you get to hear people say stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that Chuck and I worked really hard on them, and we, starting with Robin, we envisioned, hey, this would be great if we had a bookshelf. I mean, that was built into the pitch. Like, we should have a bookshelf of Year Ones, and it just one led to another and led to another, and had we our way, we would have done Jason Todd Year One. We'd set that up in Nightwing, but just so happy to have done all of them, and put down stories that have, I think, stood the test of time because they're still out there. So I'm really happy. I'm grateful to the fans, and I can't say that enough.
That's really great to hear. We also know that you've had such a big part to play in a lot of the origins and in a lot of like the Bat family. We talked last time you were on about like the Alfred's background with being an ex-operative and things like that. We were just speaking before you came on about obviously we lost the great Clive Revel here just this past week, the voice of Alfred for all that time on the animated series. So like is there a character that you haven't explored yet in that kind of realm that maybe you'd like to a little bit?
I mean, the Alfred story that you're speaking of was pitched as more of a mini series, and it ended up getting cut down and in the back of Detective Comics, which I mean I'm happy about because I got to have some Detective Comics credits in my my comicography. I mean, I don't know. I think everybody's been done, but I mean I had definite ideas for Jason Todd because I think that his story kind of got short shrift maybe, but I think it was really ripe for exploration in the Year One format. So I don't know other people have done it, but it would have been fun to have Jason and have I guess all of the Bat family kind of see the signs, but maybe willfully ignore it until the tragedy that came about. Like I'm never one to want to rewrite history, but I'd like to, maybe insert some cool bits that we haven't seen before. So kind of reimagining the things we didn't see or that were off camera, to kind of just broaden that character experience.
Well, and to kind of jumping on that a little is thinking about. I know Mike. I think I'm always telling Mike, like, Nightwing and Batman are different now than when I was reading them as a kid. Like, even
Yeah.
if Nightwing went to Batman and said, "Dude, this Jason Todd is not," Batman would have been like, "Shut up! Why are you here? I don't want to talk to you anymore." So it would be an interesting kind of who does Batman even listen to that would tell him, like, "Hey, this something's here," or would he, like, how do those conversations go? Because you don't
Yeah.
have Tim Drake around yet. Tim Drake's after that, so that would be something fun to explore. Because yes, I'm always throwing Mike, like, look at this, look at how mean they are to each other.
Yeah, I think that version of Batman is so really polarizing to the audience, but I can't see Batman other than being emotionally distaff and aloof, because he had no childhood. I mean, he was, he raised himself, I mean, with Alfred, but he kind of went off and did his thing. And he doesn't have, or he didn't have, kind of the emotional toolbox in order to deal with anything. So I think it would take someone like Dick Grayson to come and say to him, "Hey, this kid is, you need to do it a little different than you did it with me."
Yeah.
And I did a story in Gotham Knights where Barbara Gordon teams up with Jason Todd and kind of gives an assessment, and it's framed against sort of a look back on the events of A Death in the Family. It starts with Batman staring at the display case, and Barbara Gordon in her role as Oracle kind of climbing down through the Batcave without aid of legs, not being able to walk, but she like works her way down to like this sub level where he has the display case and says, "I told you so." And then we flash back to the story where she teams up as Batgirl with Jason Todd, and he does some interesting things. Like he doesn't literally smoke on camera, but you see a cigarette butt fall to the ground and a pixie boot stamping it out. So I think we kind of definitely illustrated that this is a very different Robin, and they're her assessment falls on deaf bat ears at that point. So there's always room to tell stories about the character's history, not in the now. And while I appreciate the touchy-feely Batman that we have now, who says "I love you, son" to Dick Grayson,
Yeah.
wasn't always that way.
Mm-mm.
We wouldn't have had any of the conflict that led to all these great stories. There wouldn't be a new Teen Titans if not for the rift
Yeah.
between them.
Now, if you did Jason Todd year one, would you want to do Red Hood year one, like you went Robin and Nightwing, or do you think that's kind of already been told in a way?
Yeah, I think Red Hood's already been explored by so many. Judd Winnick, I guess also Scott Lobdell and other writers. I think this would purely be Jason Todd, and it would be the Jason Todd, the redacted one, like not the Circus Aerialist that was literally Dick Grayson, redone, but the kid who stole the wheels off the Batmobile.
Yeah.
Take a punk kid raised on the streets and explore that notion that he already has street smarts and street savvy, but he's also the guy who dropped the son of a diplomat off a roof and said, "Whoops,"
Yeah.
So I think his approach to vigilantism gave Batman pause. Like Batman said, "No, we have rules," that sort of thing. So
it's also why he's the one that even. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say it's also why he's the one that gets called in, like in more recent runs, like reading the current run of Detective Comics, and he gets called in, a lot of times nowadays because he just has that style where there's a brutality that Batman has to him that comes out when necessary, that I feel like Jason is one of the few that really matches him on, even though he maybe never really figured out how to wield it properly. And so there are those times where as the Red Hood, he gets called in because Batman knows he's got more of a stomach for that kind of thing than as opposed to the others, I guess.
Yeah. I saw a young person today who had a Red Hood, kind of like Ghibli sort of, anime inspired figure. And, it's a little plushy guy and it's adorable, with the helmet. Also, like a little, I don't know, polyester crowbar in his hand. But, it just underscores the fact that, here's a character who was beaten to death with a crowbar, who then took up a crowbar,
Yeah.
become a crowbar, to do his justice with. So I think Jason's got a lot of, he's been dead and alive, and there's a lot to mine there. And I think Batman's guilt too. Like,
go ahead.
Batman's guilt. I think starting with Jason and then with Barbara, those are the characters who got the collateral damage and the war and crime. So there's tons of stuff to be done.
I was gonna say, we can all thank Matt Hasso for Jason's story getting cut short, since apparently he voted for it. Found that out the other day.
Hey, the option was presented and I didn't like him, so I made that phone call. $3. Yes, kill Jason Todd.
Well, I mean, part of the long, rich history of characters like Cousin Oliver, that just didn't resonate. Like when they, you can jump the shark or you can Cousin Oliver series. And, we had Jason Todd, like the dark version of Jason Todd, who was not likable. And then, in Titans, we had Danny Chase, who was not likable. So it's easy to push that button.
And then there's Tim Drake, who everyone just likes to forget about. This Tim Drake erasure, I will not stand for. I don't understand. I mean, I don't get it. It's weird.
Yeah, I think I wrote a couple Tim Drake stories with Chuck Dixon, who kind of really established Tim's character in his 100+ issue run.
Mhm.
Tim had to work for it. Like what came easy to Dick, what came less easy to Jason, Tim really had to work for it. And so I think Chuck had once said, I'm not sure if it was in an interview or in our discussions, that Tim is the one who would get up, or at the end of the day, when he grew up, he would give it up and get married and settle down. That he was the more responsible and level-headed character in the Bat family. So, he knew that wasn't his life. Dick said, hey, I'll be Batman someday. And then if I'm not Batman, I'm somebody else.
Yeah, we did a whole discussion a couple weeks ago about Robin and how he's been presented, and I think Matt brought up that exact thing, which was like, he's the one who is, when we see him in the Batman Beyond movie, he's the one who eventually in that version went off and got a job. Like, I talked about how Tim's the Robin that had to punch a clock. He's the Robin that Batman didn't always necessarily have in house at his beck and call whenever. Like Tim had parents and a family, like. So it was a different dynamic for the dynamic duo.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Chuck Dixon would admit it. I'm sure Chuck would acknowledge the comparisons, but I think his youth reading Peter Parker and Spider-Man probably had a lot to do with the fact that Tim had to balance his work-life balance was always at odds with being a costume vigilante.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what the conflict is. And I think later, when in the recent years when Tim came out, it wasn't surprising to me, and I wrote about this online, because Tim really never had a chance to go out all that much. So for him to explore other sides of his sexual personality kind of made sense, because every date of his ended badly because he got the bat signal, so he had to run off and be Robin.
Yeah.
So. That seemed more organic in terms of like change to a character that we thought we knew previously.
It's very similar to like just because having just recently watched, it's very Invincible like too, in a way. I don't know if you've ever read Invincible at all.
Yeah.
But it gives me Tim Drake feels like almost like an Invincible character in the DC universe in a way. He's just very real world. Shout out to Martini Time, Cousin Oliver. Yikes. Also brought up Scrappy Doo.
Yes. Yeah.
Oof. Remember when they made him the bad guy in the movie? For whatever reason. Have you been keeping up, Scott, with like some of the stuff that's been going on in some of the modern runs, Detective Comics, Nightwing, Absolute DC, any of that?
Not as much, mostly as a time thing.
Mm-hmm.
I started following Titans and Nightwing again during Tom Taylor's run. And I'm still like, reading those books because I mean, they're the characters I love the most, and I'm waiting for DC to do something, anything relevant and great with Legion of Superheroes. So, my comics reading is probably more retro. I'm buying Bronze Age stuff that I either used to have or rereading stuff that was really kind of touchstones for me growing up and becoming a writer. So,
what are some of those things you've been reading?
Rereading Alan Moore's Saga of Swamp Thing. Trying to find some good old Claremont, Paul Smith, Dave Cockrum X-Men and rereading that run. Walt Simonson's Thor, kind of like stuff through the 80s that was, really groundbreaking at the time. Like affordably priced collections of that stuff. John Sable Freelance from Mike Grell was a big thing for me.
That's Matt's guy right there. We talk about him on this show more than you realize because of Matt.
I discovered a comic shop near where I grew up in central Pennsylvania. And when at the time I was reading like Comic Scene magazine, and that's when the direct sales market started really kind of blowing up with First Comics, Camelot 3000 at DC, American Flag, John Sable, Dreadstar, stuff like that. Ronin, Frank Miller's Ronin. And so that really kind of took me out of like just the regular superhero stuff, broadened my mind quite a bit. And then we started seeing a lot of those creators do the mature reader stuff at DC and, Marvel through Epic. And that really kind of like expanded my understanding and my appreciation for comics because it became more adult. And I mean that like more mature. Yeah, I wrote an article years ago for CBR about like 6 stories that changed how I look at comics, and Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, John Byrne's Fantastic Four. Like it had, these were all like touchstone issues that still I pull them out and look at them again. It's like, wow, this is really good. This is what made me say, hey, this is literature. This isn't just comics. So
I get that.
Yeah, I have a buddy who he's just now in his 40s discovering, oh, comics can be interesting. And I was like, you know what you need to read? Because he's really into mythology. I was like, you need to read Walter Simonson's run on Thor. And he's like, oh, where can I find it? And I'm like, give me your address. And I just went to Amazon and bought all the collections and sent them to him. And I'm like, you tell me what you think. It's like, it's from the 80s, so it's a little different pace. But yeah, there's some of that stuff that it's just fantastic. I was even looking at the other day, we were something else we were working on, me and a buddy, and we're talking about that one issue where it's the final confrontation between Thor and Jormungand, and it's every page is a splash page. Walter Simonson, this Krakakum, and it's like you just don't do that anymore, and not at that level of not even just talent, but the storytelling itself. Like you would think if you had an entire comic of single page panels that you'd miss something, but not with the way he does that. Between him writing it and drawing it, it was amazing, and I just love that stuff.
Masterclass in storytelling. Manhunter, Walt's Manhunter with Archie Goodwin is my top 3 all-time favorite things. And I didn't care at all about Thor. I grew up with DC, so my exposure to Marvel came secondary. So Walt's art helped bring me to the X-Men because of the X-Men Teen Titans crossover. And then I looked at Thor and saw the brilliance in it, and that kind of was the gateway for me. Like so much of it was more creators being the gateway than the actual concepts at the time, because I don't think I would have given a lot of things a look had it not been in the hands of creators who were really doing fun stuff. And I don't know, I look at the rare air of like 1982 for about the next 4 or 5 years before the crossovers, the crises, the Secret Wars just blew it all up.
Yeah,
it became too big, too large, but there was some really fun stuff before then. And then the 90s, I think probably for me is my least favorite decade for comics, because too much of everything tried to be image-like, and everyone had pouches and tubes and and cybernetic parts, and it was just, I don't know. there was a lot of art that tried to look like Image but did it badly. And I think a lot of the stories and in the printing too. There's so many comics I'll find like from that era that have like smudges, like fingerprints on them because the ink wasn't even dry when it was, you know, shipped to the creators or the comic stores. So, you know, I don't know. There's that late Bronze Age stuff I'm revisiting and really kind of recapturing what it meant to me as a teenager at the time and having my mind blown.
Yeah,
Jeff just said just rediscovered Moon Shadow, Rich Era.
Yeah.
Somebody, Martini Time said, I'm partial to Twisted Mego Theater. I got nothing.
Twisted Mego Theater was in Toy Fair. It was like, what is that show called? Robot Chicken is the live action version of Twisted Mego Theater for Toy Fair.
Oh,
yes.
I know what you're talking about. Okay.
So Twisted Mego Theater was sort of I started Toy Fair magazine for Wizard Entertainment before I made my leap to comics. And we endeavored to be a fun, entertaining toy magazine. And we did lots of Fumetti pictures where the action figures were photographed. And then we passed around clipboards at the office and people came up with captions that were more often than not rated R. You know, I mean, you know, from fart jokes to sexual innuendo. So Twisted Mego Theater came about because we had Migos, and Migos Spidey, if you read the magazine, was kind of a scamp. You know, he was very dark version. Marvel didn't seem to have a problem with it at all. And the Hulk was dim-witted, and there we had an entire issue where he ran around without pants. Like he just kept showing up on random pages, pantsless with the censor bar. But Twisted Mego was the brainchild of the late great Pat McCallum, our editor-in-chief, and later he was editor-in-chief at DC. Wonderful guy. He's not with us anymore, and we miss him terribly. And Pat assembled Tom Root, who was one of my staffers, Doug Goldstein, who was a Wizard staffer and head of all the Wizard magazines. And they would go to lunches and come up with some concept for Migos doing terrible things. And at the time, we had a customizer on retainer. He lived in Florida. His name's Charlie Flatt. Did some of the most awesome Mego customs ever. So we started out getting some custom Migos for the cover. So we did Spider-Man versus Venom. And, you know, when you have a multi-posable character like that, it's easy to create a dynamic cover with lots of accoutrements. And then he did the core X-Men, Cyclops, Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, and Wolverine for another cover for one of our specials. And then for the first Twisted Mego Theater, it was Supervillain Jeopardy. So Charlie built us a custom Alex Trebek, Dr. Doom, and the Red Skull. And I can't remember whether or not, you know, he was in full German regalia. He maybe was. I don't think we would, you know, do that or want to do that today. And a very tiny little Mr. Mind that looked like he was made out of marzipan. He looked super yummy. So yeah, so the three supervillains played Supervillain Jeopardy, and hijinks ensued. So it just became a regular feature that was so popular that it was later collected as trade paperbacks. And Matt Senreich, who was one of our interns, and then later a staff writer, and then later editor of Toy Fair magazine after I left, pitched it to Gareb Shamus to do like a live action show where we would do stop motion. And they also pitched Star Wars Family Feud that was kind of cool. And they filmed it in costumes. And Gareb Shamus passed on it. Said he couldn't see the humor in it. And Gareb was the guy who came to us one day and showed us a bootleg of the very first South Park and said, you know, somebody sent this to me. What do you think? We think this is going to be the next big thing. So Matt became friends with the actor, and then later took a bunch of Wizard staffers, including Tom Root, Mike Fasolo, and Doug Goldstein, and they moved to Hollywood, pitched it to I guess it would be just Adult Swim and their various entities. And that was the birth of Robot Chicken, which I think is still running today. So Matt is also one of the co-owners of Stupid Buddy Studios, which does a lot of stop motion animation. Like if you see like the goldfish commercials with like the stop motion goldfish for Pepperidge Farm. And I also, I'm pretty sure this is a thing. They do the costumes for The Masked Singer. So
Oh wow.
I knew these guys
Oh.
when, they worked on, comics and toy magazines, and were able to take that and translate it to the next phase. So also, to be fair to Gareb Shamus, he also didn't see the internet coming, and that's why the Wizard Entertainment magazines did not translate over to cyberspace ever.
I
And
remember
now
that.
they don't
I remember
exist.
that.
Yeah. Yep.
Hold
I'm-
on. Are you pulling up? Are you pulling up the one about Martini said about Iron Man? I remember
Yeah,
that episode. I am
I'm getting there.
dying.
I was gonna say,
Oh,
Martine says the more Iron Man pees out of his helmet is where it really comes into its own.
Mike, do you
Yeah.
know what he's talking about?
I think I don't think I ever saw that one.
They're
Okay.
all in line for Phantom Menace, waiting for the movie to come out, and then something happens. Iron Man bends over, and all this liquid comes out of his mask, and he stands back up, and they're like, "What was that?" He's like, "I'm not getting out of line for nothing."
Yeah.
So I love.
yeah,
Oh,
Martini time. You should know that I think DC told us please don't use DC characters, so that's why it became mostly Marvel. And Marvel, I don't think Marvel at the time. I think they were okay as long as it was good press, but they were also kind of mired in that whole Toy Biz Perelman takeover in the 90s, and so I think it just I don't know, somehow we flew underneath their radar, but Twisted Mego Theater and some of the other more salacious material is what kept us out of Toys R Us. I mean, our marketing guys were trying to get us into Toys R Us as as a place to buy the magazine, and we refused to kind of tone it down because people liked what we were selling, and within a year we were outselling Tomarts and Action Figure Insider and all those other regular magazine size things, just because of what we were doing, and showing new product, showing behind the scenes of products, getting great interviews. I mean, I still have Mark Hamill's phone number and address in my little black book because we got him for one of the first issues to talk about what it meant to have so many Luke Skywalkers made in his image. So during COVID, I told my kids, if things get too bad, we're gonna crank call Mark Hamill, and that's how we're gonna go out. Luke, I'm your father.
Jeff Jones says you made our youth happy. Love Twisted Mego
Aw.
Theater.
Well, again, all credit goes to Pat, Tom, Senreich, and Doug Goldstein and the crew that worked on it. And more than anything else, our dauntless photographer, Paul Schiraldi. Paul was a photographer who did a lot of stuff for HBO, a lot of the still photography for the HBO shows like The Sopranos and Sex and the City. Oh. And we kept him on retainer. He would come up like once or twice a week just to shoot action figures in our warehouse. The best was when we had the first Star Wars AT-AT when Hasbro brought the line back in '95. They sent us a prototype of it, and our design director Steve Blackwell and our library coordinator Dan Riley got I don't know 30 pounds of cornstarch as snow, and we had a $1,000 photographic backdrop of mountains that we used to shoot this AT-AT in a way that made it look kind of cinematic. And then afterwards, poor Dan Riley had to clean it with a toothbrush to get all the cornstarch off of it.
Oh no! Oh,
yeah,
no. And nowadays, there's people like that doing stuff like that. You see it on Instagram and TikTok where they take their Stormtrooper action figures and set off M80s in the background and take a photograph and it's like a battle. Love stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff I love the internet for.
Yeah, we I don't know if Martini remembers, but we had our official mascot for a while was Zach Malamute. Jim McLaughlin, a staff writer for Wizard and Toy Fair, had a friend who had a Malamute that was, I don't know, averse to coffee cups and action figures. So Zach would rate action figures by the chew factor. So we would just send him an action figure, and he would do what dogs do, and that was the rating. I don't know. There wasn't any idea that was too dumb, and I'm sorry to go off too much on Toy Fair, but that I think Toy Fair really affected the collector's market and the customizing market, like Wizard did. It really sort of defined, how we look at comics now.
I don't disagree. It really I was getting into comics, in Matt and I have talked about this, in the 90s, at a point where things were in kind of in that transitional period in the early mid 90s. So Wizard magazine and stuff like that was kind of my first gateway into I guess just like how vast comics really were. Like at that point, that was for me this is more than just pictures on a page and bow bam biff, that was it played that role hugely in my life and for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that unless you were one of those junior woodchucks, who eventually became DC editors that got to be interns in the 70s and, be part of like a summer program, it really demystified the comics making process. And so I think it went hand in hand with a lot of the rise of not just the first independents, but like, guys who came up and did their own comics, did their own ash cans, printed them at Copyworks and distributed them at cons. Like it kind of showed, I think, a whole generation of pros how to break in, and how comics are made, and the process to it, as well as sort of telling comic book companies, this is what we like. The stuff that the middle-aged people are putting out, hey, that's great, but here's what we like. And as an upstart in the beginning, I think the companies sort of, they weren't really down with what Wizard was doing, but eventually they came to Wizard with story content ideas and said, hey, can you cover this? Because they realized what an effect it had on the audience and really defined how readers read comics, and also the events as well. I mean, if it was in Wizard, it had to be cool. So, getting Nightfall covered in Wizard, or getting, pick any Marvel X-Men crossover, guaranteed sales, because it helped to boost the bandwidth. And then also, I don't think Image would have had the impact if it wasn't covered in Wizard. Yeah. And we weren't doing interviews with these guys and showing the real people behind the comic book industry. So it was instrumental to me breaking into comics, because I got to work behind the scenes and then meet people and kind of open doors that way. So I'm grateful for that experience also.
I think one of my fondest memories of Wizard, besides always reading it and all the nonsense, is they would do the art contest every so often. And there was this one artist, and I was like, that dude's art is awesome. And then I think he ended up getting, I can't remember which studio hired him, but he got hired.
Right.
And then went on to do his own book. And Mike, you know exactly who I'm talking about. Jeff Matsuda, who designed the Batman show. And it was just like the weirdest thing, because I remember like when his drawing came into that contest, it really did. It was way above quality because most of the people, you could tell like they're just drawing for this contest. Like he was trying to do something. So it was very interesting to see, like you're saying, this random person submitting some art, and it got him in the door. And now I don't know where he is now, but I mean, he definitely is in Hollywood doing that work. So it was, because I love that cartoon and I love the design of it. So
yeah, I used to love when we would get all the photos for the Halloween contest, because there was some next level cosplay before cosplay was even a thing. So I feel like Wizard sort of raised the bar for anybody building their own Stormtrooper or Boba Fett outfit, or kind of sewing spandex the right way, so that you could walk around and not look like embarrassing.
Hey, and you know what else Wizard did? Wizard had a contest for fan films, and that is what got me into film. So and Martini Time, he was in one of those movies. The second one we did for them was Wolverine: The College Years. He played what was his name? What was your? I don't even know if he remembers. The guy with the glasses and the red hair. Martini Time is
Cyclops.
No. From Wolverine's past.
I have no idea. I don't know.
It was a scientist. I can't remember what his name
Martini
was.
Time straight up said, "Let's not mention."
Yeah.
He said, "I did a spit take. You have brought up some core memory, sir."
Bad. It was bad.
Martini Time. If it helps, I'm in an issue of Wizard that my young wife and I went to a Wizard Halloween party, and she was Jade from Kingdom Come, and to keep the green face paint theme alive, I was Brainiac 5. So I had a purple jumpsuit, a gold belt and boots, and green face and spray blonde hair for it. So, I did the thing, and the pictures show up every now and again. So
nice.
Yeah.
Oh man, what is there anything with we've talked a lot about comics. Obviously, we know DC has a lot of stuff coming up with film and TV as well. Have you watched like Creature Commandos at all? Have you?
Yeah. Yep.
What'd you think of
Loved
that?
it.
Loved it.
Loved it. Yeah. Huge fun. I mean, one of the best things coming out of COVID was James Gunn's Suicide Squad. Or the Suicide Squad, or whatever, James Gunn's version of it.
Yeah.
Probably the most I've laughed at the movies in years. So much fun. Cannot wait for Superman. Got chills watching the as much as I did as a kid, seeing the trailer for Christopher Reeve Superman for the first time. And oh my God, Crypto. I had an argument at a comic show. I was sitting at a table, and a fan asked me what I thought of it. I'm like, Crypto. What's not to love? And he's like, oh, it's going to be stupid. I'm like, it's Crypto. Like, how can you not love that? I mean, if you're into DC, you got to accept it all. You got to accept the red Superman with blue Superman, all the kryptonites. Like, Mike, I'm seriously, we'll rumble.
I just read that. I was talking to Matt because I hate the 90s Grant Morrison JLA. Because like New World Order is one of my favorite runs, but immediately following that is Blue Superman, and it's like, that happened.
I think, to be fair, Grant inherited Blue Superman from the Superman titles.
he did. But it was a stark reminder of like we had got to the new JLA, and it was like, oh yeah, we were in Blue Superman at this point. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's all. I was reading. In the early 80s when DC had the Digest series, that was my gateway to the Silver Age. So if you have the modern take and then you see like the hokier stuff, it's like, it's okay because it's like, okay, well, now we're serious, but hey, wasn't that really cool when Superman turned into, I don't know, a troll, but he still had to marry Lois, and she's like, Sob, I can't marry him. He has a hunchback,
Remember Kryptonite in 2003? That happened. But also like, the Zack Snyder-ish era of DC had such a constant criticism of being too dark and not fun. What's more fun than a dog with Superman powers? I mean, come on.
My Steel. I loved the trailer. But
I'm saying that as a fan of that stuff. Like,
no, I think stylistically it was done really well. But when Superman flies, like I should, there should be a rising score, and my heart should just like go up into my throat. And it was just like, okay, he keeps face planting into the the Arctic. And I didn't like the fact that Superman wasn't smarter than the villains. Like, he should have taken that battle to Jupiter rather than knock down buildings. And I don't know, maybe it's a function of like 9/11 and disaster porn, where buildings are decimated. It just seemed like, wow, so many people are getting hurt because they're punching each other out. So I don't know. I just wish it were smarter and more upbeat. And I feel like
that's where I give Invincible credit. Like, in the most recent season, spoilers. At one, the fight is in Chicago, which has been decimated 3 times over in the span of a week at this point in the show. They take the fight to space because he's like, no, we're done. And I've watched so many people reacting to that online who are all screaming, take this fight to space. 3 seconds later, the fight goes to space. It's like, go. You'll be fine. You can breathe. It's okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever read Swamp Thing, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, like issue 24. The Justice League are kind of watching Swamp Thing have a standoff with Plant Master. And the Moore describes the Justice League as if they're gods. There's a man whose life is an endless gallery of statues, and that's the Flash. And a man who can wring diamonds from anthracite, that's Superman. And the Justice League are all standing around talking about how helpless they are because Plant Master has increased the oxygen level to the point of the town in Louisiana becoming an inferno if they intercede. So, Firestorms, they're like, hey, I can turn everything back to, regular levels. And Superman is a total dick. He says, do you know how many oxygen atoms there are in the atmosphere? I could count them for you. And it's like, oh my God, Superman, his helplessness turned him into a jerk to the 18-year-old kid in the Justice League. So, I think sometimes when you like take these characters and realize that they're human and show their flaws, but don't make them ineffective, So, you know, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I liked Zack Snyder's 4-hour Justice League cut much better than
Yeah.
the theatrical release. I mean, it was cleaned up a lot better, a
Yeah.
lot more motivation. But I feel like the DC Entertainment Universe prior to James Gunn coming in was trying to be like correspondingly downbeat to the upbeat, needle drop, jokey parts of the Marvel universe that everybody loved. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I
No,
wish
I
they
agree.
imitated it more than tried to be antithetical to it.
Yeah,
Or
there's one thing. There's an idea of I work in marketing, so we always hear all the time of like we got to do something different. It's like yes, do something different, but not so starkly different that it's jarring. You know, unless you're going for shock factor. But um, I like what we're seeing. I mean, we put up a reaction to that trailer, and Mac can attest. I pretty much straight up forgot to breathe during the last few seconds of that trailer. I mean that you talk about swelling scores. I mean just that sustained couple of guitar notes alone was just immediate. I mean I got chills in a wave from a trailer.
And it was John Williams. So you know that leitmotif that everybody knows for Superman. Like, why not go back to that well? Like, I can't remember. I mean, Hans Zimmer's score for Man of Steel. Like, okay, I guess it was okay, but it's not what I hum in the back of my head when I'm, riding my bicycle, at top
Yeah.
speed. You know,
It sounded like a Superman score, but not like
yeah.
it's not like, but not like not like a Superman theme. Like it sounded like, yeah, this sounds like music that would play for a Superman movie, but nothing felt like there's no themes. Like you want like a something to go, you hear a couple notes and go, oh, that's the Batman theme. You know, if I hear the first two notes of the Danny Elfman Batman theme, I know it, you know?
Yeah.
So Hans Zimmer's score, while it was good for a movie score, it didn't have that. There's no, you're right. There's no that one thing that hits and you go, ah, yes, that's his, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. My hope is that the DCU can do what Marvel did. I mean, obviously there was a 20-year plan there. And, I imagine giant whiteboards, floor to ceiling that had the flow chart that connected them all to the point where, we start with Iron Man. And by the time we get to Endgame, that moment in the theater where Cap picks up Thor's hammer and the theater erupts. And, like I said, I'm a DC guy. Everything started with Super Friends in 1974. I came to Marvel late, but oh my God, man, that scene, they're like, woo, still when I watch it on TV, goosebumps. So like plotted out so well. The superheroes should lift us up, not make us say, eh.
I agree. We only have you for a few more minutes, Scott. We don't want to take up too much of your time on a Friday night. We appreciate you taking the time with us, of course. Yeah, so we'd like to just roll out the red carpet for you. What would you like to go ahead, plug away, tell the people what if you can. We know there's some things you can't talk about yet, but what if you can, would you like to tell the folks about?
There's nothing that I can talk about right now that's like up and coming. The new Green Arrow Archers reprints 2 Green Arrow stories I did years ago to give Kevin Smith a break because he was, dividing time being a director and then writing Green Arrow for DC. So I got to write 2 fill-in issues. I was called on a Friday. They said, hey, we need these, like ASAP. So I got to work with Phil Hester on one of the issues with Count and Vertigo. And the second one was with the great Sean Martinborough, and has the Arrow car. And I'm happy because that cover was turned into a T-shirt from Graffiti Designs. And so it's like for the first time, like those 2 like one-off Green Arrow stories. And from my comicography, I always found like the short stories, like the single issue stories, were the toughest to write because you're kind of sandwiched in continuity. You just have to play with the characters and tell a good fast story in 22 pages and not interrupt somebody else's run. So that just out. So kind of mildly plugging that for the 2 stories I have in 500 pages worth of material. And the other stuff is I'm going to be I'll be talking to you. I mean, I'll let you guys know first, but hopefully some. Yeah, hopefully. So, I mean, one is a character that's pulp character with lots of comics history, involved in a project with some other people on that, and maybe some new comic stuff soon. So yeah, and I might probably be also plugging Unprepped, which is a 5-issue post-apocalyptic comedy that I did with Chuck Dixon a couple of years back. We were originally going to publish it through IDW. They bought it from us the day we pitched it, and then sat on it. So we bought it back and got it out through Antarctic. And now that Chuck is promoting his new film with his Levon Cade character, the Working Man with Jason Statham.
Oh, watched that trailer the other day.
Yeah. So that's Chuck's got that out, and he's been working with Sylvester Stallone. So I keep telling him, hey, tell Sly that we've got this post-apocalyptic comedy. It's about prepping gone bad, Unprepped. It's called. So
I'd be down for it. It sounds great to me.
That's awesome.
Scott, thank you so much for joining us once again and helping us celebrate this time and just talking nerdy comic books with us. We love having you on.
Always a pleasure, Mike and Matthew. Always love talking with you guys. So thank you. Happy anniversary. Love listening to your show, and love the fact that you guys are keeping the torch alive for fandom and nerddom, and reading all the stuff and taking deep dives into bat lore, which is always great.
We love it, and thank you for being a part of that. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Being a guest. So anytime, guys.
All right, we'll get you back on soon, Scott. Enjoy the rest of your evening and have a great weekend. And thank you so much.
Take care, everybody. Bye bye.
All right, thank you again to Mr. Scott Beatty for joining us, guys. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We're live. We're having a great time for our 150th episode. So make sure you subscribe. We drop new episodes every Friday, except for when I get super sick and we straight up forget.
Or we record an episode to bank and then it disappears.
And then, or we just didn't record that episode. We still don't know what happened to that episode. Who knows? And if you haven't already, please follow us on all the social medias at WATB Pod. We post everything everywhere, so please follow us there. Let's get into some of the actual other episode. Now we had Scott Beatty. Then we got to do other stuff now.
Yeah, I know.
The exciting thing, cool.
By the way, I was gonna say real quick, if you guys have questions for us, just drop them in the chat. I'm monitoring the chat as best I can, so don't just sit there and watch. As much as you, if you want to watch us, you can watch.
Please, by all means. I got my haircut for you guys today. So,
but you guys can drop anything you want to ask, and we will take care of it. But what are we doing, Mike? What's our next bit here?
All right, let's get into. We teased this a bit. We've said we were going to do this. I don't know what the hell I'm in store for, but we've brought up the fact that Matt has done some acting, and we've been watching these fan films lately. Yes, and we've been doing these fan film reactions once a month. Well, the end of March is coming up on Monday, and we haven't watched one yet.
I got to wait real quick.
This month.
Sound off in the chat, because Mike had never seen Batman Dead End. Has everybody in the chat seen Batman Dead End?
Yeah.
Where he fights aliens and Predator?
Yeah. Let us know down in the chat if you've seen Batman Dead End before. I had never seen it. Completely missed me. I shocked. So, Martini Time said no.
What?
Comics says they haven't.
Where were you guys?
He hasn't. Wow.
Brian,
I feel seen.
Okay.
I feel seen now.
Okay.
Get off my ass, internet.
Failed me, guys.
Well, hey, go watch it and then go watch our reaction to it.
There you go.
Well, we've been doing these. We haven't done one for March yet, so we decided that our March one we would do live here on the channel. Martini says, "Is that on Netflix? I canceled that trash." It is on YouTube. Well, Matt apparently was in his own Batman themed fan film at some point. So our reaction is going to our surprise reaction is going to be to Matt Hasso's surprise fan film from the year 2000.
25 years ago.
000. That's what we're
I think it may because I think I filmed it in 99 and 2000. Like that's how long ago I did this.
This is insane. I'm getting it set up right now.
I almost was going to ask him, but I was like, man, he may have other things. Is that this is the first year Wizard did it. This is the fan film that we made and submitted to that first year of Wizard the Guide to Comics fan film contest.
Are you serious?
I am. Yeah.
That's
wild. It's okay. So real quick. Do you want? Let's wait for after. I'll tell you more about it after.
Don't try to contextualize this thing. Actually, hang on. Before we do this.
Yeah, you're gonna need that, bro. Take it in.
It cuts me off at 10 seconds.
Okay, I for a second there, I thought you froze.
No, I went until it cut me off.
Okay.
Oh, it's a brand new cart. So remember we were talking off mic about stuff that's hard or earlier when stuff that's favorite. Yeah, this is one of those carts. It's called like Honey Crisp Apple Delight, and it's making me float, baby. All right, let's see
what happens now.
Yeah, let's watch Matt Hasso's Nightwing fan film from the year 2000. Ooh, this is going to be
terrible.
Something
terrible. Oh,
yeah, look at that quality.
They're the best that iMovie could do.
Hey, man, no hate. I was learning about this time too.
So, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, okay kind of job.
Shut up.
It lets me meet lots of new people.
Oh my god. Yes, it is, Brian. That is Martina time. It's everybody.
Anybody I meet,
I'm gonna kill you, Nightwing.
You're dead, Nightwing!
and I never ever lose my temper.
City of Bloodhaven is mine.
It's a good city shot. I'll give you.
You know who he is, where he goes,
Look at that car.
who he talks to.
Look at that hair.
Wants everything precious to him crushed, burned, or torn apart. As for Nightwing himself, I want to rot from existence.
What is this voice? What is this accent?
Baby. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Hey.
That looked real. The holding you up like that.
Oh, he did a good job.
No, that ain't it. That ain't it.
Hey,
None of
that's
that was
actually
it.
me in that shot.
There are
None of that Kane thing was it.
men who will stop at nothing to obtain their goals of wealth and power. These men fear nothing, not society,
Who ADR'd this? Sony?
not the law,
Pretty much.
not even
IMAX.
themselves.
Yeah.
I have been given the tools.
I can still do all these things, by the way.
Oh, sure you can. Yeah, and it doesn't cause you any pain at all. No discomfort.
I didn't say
Other
that.
than that, I'm just your average kind of guy.
Oh.
So subscribe to the channel, everybody. Follow us
You
on all
get this
social
kind of
media.
quality.
Look, man, I have I'm just talking shit. I have made some shit in my life. I have been looking ever since we talked about it last week. I have been looking head to toe for that old Avengers fan film I was in, and I have not been able to find. I think the guy who made it kind of
Probably
like
burned it.
well, he kind of abandoned social media and everything, and I think he took that with him. So I haven't reached out to him, but look, man, that you know what, Grok comic, it had charm. No, like I'm being dead serious. For you guys made that on iMovie in the year 2000, like, bro.
It was kind of funny. So here's what happened. So the guy who played the guy with the cane, that's my buddy Warren.
Okay.
He had gone to college and got an RTF degree, but so he
What?
knew how to do film.
A what? An
Radio,
RT?
television, film.
Oh, okay.
And what happened is that when this contest came out, I really wanted to do it, but I had no idea how to make a movie. So I called him. I was like, "Hey, will you direct it if I act and write in it?" And it's something I do to this day. He did this thing. He goes, "You know what? If you write a script and send it to me, I'll help you make the movie." So much to his dismay, within 3 days, I sent him a script. And he called me back. He's like, "No one's ever sent me a script." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Everybody wants me to make a movie with them. And every time I tell them to write a script, it never happens. So you were the first person who's come." So all that to say, I think I told this before, but I'll say it again. It's like, I worked for a computer store, and at the time they were letting us borrow digital cameras, and the iMac and iMovie had just come out. So
it was like it was like this is what they launched with.
So I could use whatever I wanted and teach people how to use it because I was using it to make these movies. So I became at the store like the video expert. Now, granted, it's a little DV, SD, the little tapes. I mean, it was
I had
not
one of those.
quality. Yeah. So, and at the time, I was teaching a bunch of my coworkers martial arts. So it's basically all my students were the stunt guys. And I choreographed all the fights, did all that stuff. The girl who Brian is that who I think it is? Yes. As Martini Time. Sorry, Martini Time. He worked with me while I was making this movie. So he probably remembers some of this, going through some of this stuff, and he knows a lot of the people that were in the movie because they were friends of ours at the store. So yeah, that is how that came about. And it was this thing that kind of launched me into doing. The following year, we did another one, the Wolverine one, Wolverine the college years. And then after that, I decided like, hey, this is cool. Maybe we should actually try and do our own thing. And that eventually led me to where I was years after that. But yeah, that was it, man. It was just this weird, like, it's funny because it was
very much the epitome of, I can pull off the look.
I dyed my hair black, grew it out so it was like that.
Because a lot of folks know you're a natural redhead.
Are you making fun of me?
I am 1,000%. When am I not making fun of you?
So yeah, so it was funny because I think Martini Time, that is why your first wedding, my hair was black, is because I was making this movie at the same time. Shut up, Brian.
Look
at what Martini Time said.
Carpet didn't match the tray. It's funny. That's funny. Look, man. Hey, look. Props to you for listen. Thank you for letting us watch that on the internet, and thank you for letting me be mean about it.
Dude, it's one of those things where, like, at the time and considering what we had, there's no reason for it to be what it was, for as good as it ended up being.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I remember there was probably 10 years after this, when I was really deep into making movies, I had this sliver moment of like, I should redo the costume and remake this trailer with everything I know now. But I don't think it would have had the same charm. I don't think it would have been the same thing. But yeah, that costume was like black baseball pants and a shirt I got from Hot Topic that had zippers everywhere. So the the different things I'm wearing, like the blue on it covered the zippers.
Dude,
I mean, it's hilarious.
I was in middle school, and it was one of the last times I did Halloween. I went as Batman Beyond, and my mom literally took like a black sweatshirt, some red felt, cut this shape, put it
Mhm.
on the front, like, made this out of, like, this is back when you go get all those tubes of the fabric paint. I mean, she DIY'd the shit. My mom DIY'd the shit out of so many Halloween costumes over the years. So, dude, and I, again, one of these days I will find a way to show you that Avengers film, but there is something to be said about making something low budget and just saying, guys, who fucking cares?
Well,
You
and,
know what I
and
mean?
like again, the tools were there in front of me. I had the martial arts ability. I had a bunch of students who would do what I said. I had a buddy who knew how to make a movie. And
Creepiest thing ever. I had a bunch of students who would do what I said.
oh yeah, martial arts students who I could train and do.
That's not better. I had a bunch
I
of
know.
martial arts students
Yeah.
who would do what I said. Take
And
sweep
I-
the leg. Yes, sensei.
Yeah, we almost got arrested in the Nightwing costume one day. That happened. Let's see what else. The first day we shot, the thing I did the spirit gum wrong, and the mask like molded with my face, and I had to like almost cut it off. So for a week, I had the red circles. Look at Jeff. What are you saying?
Dude,
did
as
Jeff
always,
say?
we know that. That's not, yeah. No, we know. It's a well-established fact on this show.
Yeah.
All right.
It's not,
well,
the only reason it's not called "We Are the Nightwing" is because I don't think Mike has the same love for Nightwing that I do.
no, I love me some Nightwing. I mean, it was the first comic I genuinely collected like regularly.
Yeah.
But I don't know, love you. All right. Well, speaking of comics, let's get into some comics. Let's start with the sequel to Hush
Okay.
started this week. In the current ongoing run of Batman, and this is as we talked about, going to be the thing that wraps up the current iteration of Batman. There will be the guy at my comic book store was saying the other day, I forget how long of it, there's like a brief pause, and then in September they relaunch with the new one from Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez. I am so excited. Oh my god.
Yes.
That being said, Hush 2 is here with Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb returning. I actually have my copy right here. Actually, both my copies, because I picked up my store.
Yeah, I have that cover.
Yeah, just the standard one, which dope cover, good cover. I like it. It's cool. But also my store had a special store exclusive variant. So good, from Stuart Sager. Who was in store and actually did a signed copy for the store they had there on display. And yeah, it's so metal.
Nice.
But yeah, so this is the return of Hush. He has returned to Gotham. Spoilers if you haven't read the book at this point.
The first one or this one now.
Yeah. Spoilers for Hush and Batman number 158.
Yeah.
The first issue of Hush number 2. So and we've talked about Hush off and on this show. I don't think we've ever done a full Hush.
Probably not. I'm not the biggest fan.
Because
of
you and I have both have mixed feelings on Hush. Both the animated movie and the book, especially the animated movie. But Hush just from on paper is a really interesting character. You know, when and you didn't play these games, but when Hush is first introduced in Arkham City, and it got people hyped, and then his the part of him that's in Arkham Knight is just it's not everything I wanted it to be, but it's a satisfying enough ending. Kind of like with Hush in general, how it always seems to be. We seem to struggle with the ending when it comes to Hush. So this maybe is Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb going for another shot at that. What did you think, Matt?
of the original Hush or this one?
Let's go with this one. How did you feel about this one with them getting back to? Do you think this is maybe them going for a second shot at it?
I'm hoping they have a better, newer story to tell. Like for me, that first one, and I'm not just to have the second. That first one felt like I'm Jim Lee. I want to draw every single character of the Batman and Batman family. Jeff, write a story that makes that happen. And I just felt like some of it was like, is this really the story we need to tell? This one, I was kind of intrigued by some of the stuff in here. Like the idea of Hush coming back, killing Joker out of the get, and Batman having to deal with that and realizing, oh, he's back, my old buddy.
But also, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, but I think I'm intrigued to see, because I did the part of the original thing I liked was the conflict between Batman and Hush. It was all the ancillary stuff that was going on, and then for it at the very end to almost like it felt like a bootstrap story. It was like the story ends and nothing's different, and then the next issue it's just back to standard Batman. Like nothing that happened within that story changes anything going forward.
Yeah.
And I think like hopefully with this, like you're saying, if this does lead into this quote unquote reboot and him changing things, I think that would be really cool. I am not out, but I'm not 100% in, if that makes sense.
Well, and it's the first issue. You and I talked about this on the phone, when we were talking about what do we want to talk about with this, that is the thing to keep in mind is this is issue 1 of several. So like for me to say whether or not, Hush 2 is a win yet, it's impossible for me to say that. What I can say is like, if their goal with this issue was to make a statement and like to say and to drop a bomb, Hush basically all but killing the Joker, putting his life in Batman's hands, and weirdly in a way also tying it back to the Killing Joke. Didn't see so if this is meant to be kind of the bow on top of this story, of this take on Batman before we switch things up, not a bad idea to, much like a series finale of a TV show or like Avengers Endgame, like we talked about with Scott Beatty, kind of start tying off all the things, bring back things we haven't talked about in a while, to reference things we haven't seen in some time. It's got me on board. It's got me ready to read the next issue.
I think my only other, and I said this to you, is like, was Jim Lee in a rush? Like I felt like there was some of the art that was not.
He's doing a lot of variants apparently, because because it seems like, good Lord, there is a Jim Lee variant for every book you and I pick up lately. And so there was a few times where where the pages weren't everything they could have been. Nothing specific, but I will say, just from man.
You know what it made me? Well, I was just looking at it right now. You know what it makes me think? Is it makes me think the inker did more of the finishing than he traditionally does. That's what it looks like to me.
One thing I will say is I weirdly love the design of the Joker piranhas.
Yes.
They were horrifying. They were horrifying. I will say, I do think you're right. I think, but I also think that was something to do with, how can I describe it? I almost feel like that was a tonal choice. You know what I mean? I could be wrong. But it just, I don't know. It almost felt tonal to me, but I'm curious to see what.
Well, because
go ahead.
No, to me, it looks like the first several pages, like Jim Lee's on point, and then it's just like as we get closer to the end, there's a couple pages there where it was like, did you just not have time? And you were like, bro, finish the inks for me so I can go on to the next page. That's the only thing when I look at. That's what it looks like to me.
I mean, Invincible, both in the comics and in the television show, have shown us that that's a thing that happens. So, Grok Comics says, Loeb wasn't at his best with Hush, didn't care for it. I think Hush as a character is great.
Yes.
I think Hush, the comic book story, is hit or miss. So I like the idea of these two going back and saying, let's try
tell another version.
let's try and give this, if we're gonna give this take on Batman a send off, let's try and give this story a proper send off, because we know we're also, they've been doing that with the Long Halloween. I haven't read the Long Halloween Part 3 yet. I'm going to, once it's done and collected, and I can just go. I saw the volume 1 collected at the store the other day, so I'll pick it up at some point and we'll get to that. But yeah, I'm on board for more. I'm definitely on board for more. They've set up enough to keep me interested. And Hush is a character that can make things really personal for Batman in a way that opens up for some really interesting storytelling.
Yeah. I think they got 2 more out of me. And then after that, if it doesn't grab me, I'll probably be like, well, I'll wait for it to hit the library and I'll just check it out from the library and so
That's
we'll
fair.
see. That's kind
fair.
of where I'm at.
Oh yeah. Again, this is the first issue.
Yeah.
So like my expectations weren't real. I didn't really have any expectations, because I'm just like, it takes more than one issue of a comic book usually. Yeah. Usually we're gonna get there in a sec to get me on board. But that being said, if you haven't already, please go check out Batman issue number 158. Again, this is the final arc in this run on Batman before things switch over to Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez. I'm so excited, and I just can't hide. Also, Jorge Jimenez apparently is putting together I got a Kickstarter coming for like a collected edition of all his DC art. He wants to put together almost like a coffee table book of just all his DC art.
Yes.
Just take all of my money now.
Yeah.
Immediately. All right.
Look, Martini had to leave.
Oh, Martini had to leave. Martini, I got a drop. Had fun with the Chaz. Congratulations on the anniversary. Keep hoping for that Constantine sequel. Me too. I got a second podcast guest appearance writing on it.
He was in Fanboy Junction. He did Constantine when he was on the show.
Oh, he's the bastard that beat me to it. He's the bastard that beat me to it. That's some of my bitch. Yeah, Frog is right. Jimenez gets better and better.
Man. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, let's get to kind of the main thing everyone is talking about with DC right now, which is Absolute DC Comics. We've been covering it as regularly as we can. We're gonna be covering. I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, but we're gonna be covering more Absolute DC stuff going forward. We have more updates about the show and stuff here at the end. Getting to that, promise. But yeah. We wanted to do a full Absolute DC update because now we have one more Absolute DC title starting next week or the week after.
I think it's next week. That's been announced.
It's been announced, which is Absolute Green Lantern starts next week. More might be coming, but of the 6 that have been announced, this is it. Flash started last week. We reviewed that. Thank you to everybody who jumped on from that, by the way. And Absolute Martian started this week. Absolute Martian Manhunter's fucking weird.
It's yeah. I was like reading it and I'm like, are you telling me he doesn't know he's an alien? Is that what's happening right now? And I'm like, that's a conclusion I got, is basically he doesn't know he's an alien. And I'm like, I am here for this.
I pulled the conclusion he's aware. He's just doing that like full identity. I feel like he's assimilated someone's identity. I feel like instead of him creating John Jones like he did in the comics, I feel like John Jones existed and he assumed his identity and is like absorbed this guy's mind to try and take over him, and it's not going well. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm basing that purely on my own
Has
intuition.
anybody else in the chat read Absolute Martian Manhunter? Where's my copy?
It's yeah, I got mine over here too. It is truly, I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah.
One of the craziest things I have ever read.
It's
In a good way. And I'm not like, this is not a negative. This is
Yeah.
not a negative. Like, yeah, Jeff Jones says not excited, but not yet, but not excited, not yet, but excited too. Grok didn't read it yet. Jeff Jones more so now. Yeah, it's like I don't want to spoil.
Yeah.
I mean, we just kind of already spoiled a whole bunch. But,
I mean,
but-
everybody knows Martian Manhunter is an alien. We're not spoiling it.
yeah, that's true. I feel like, I mean, we've been singing the praises of Absolute DC for
Yes.
just the hard left turn they have taken on all of these origins. And Martian Manhunter is an origin who, like, it's pretty straightforward. He's a Martian who left
Yeah.
Mars and he came to Earth.
Yeah.
And he helps the Justice League. And that's
Yeah.
it's really about it. There's not too much more to it than that. This, on the other hand, is a mind fuck.
Well, and I think too, we talked about it on the phone, but I'll say it now, is like, I'm gonna try and do this quickly. Like, when Marvel did their Ultimate Universe, it was just, let's do a modern reboot. They didn't really change all that much about the characters.
Yeah.
And then when, with DC, they did their Elseworlds, and it would just be like, let's take this version of let's take Batman and just give him, put him in, Gotham by Gaslight time frame, the
Yeah.
Renaissance, or make it a pirate, or they'd move, what happens if Superman is raised by the Waynes, like
Yeah.
all the Elseworld stuff. It wasn't drastically different.
Yeah.
was a good one,
There
by
were
the
what
way.
ifs.
There were what
Yeah.
ifs. This is, for the most part, conceptually, like, we're going to take this character and we're going to keep the core of the character's personality, but we're going to put them in a completely different setting.
Mm.
And I don't know why I have to keep doing this to make my point, but
It helps. It's helping me. I'm, as a visual learner, as somebody who's a very visual
Okay.
learner, I appreciate
so
it.
so I think what has been the most interesting is when they go farther with that. So, like, Batman, he's still Batman, but he's not the rich guy, but he ultimately is Batman. He uses the resources he has to do the Batman thing.
It's also Batman really is leaning into the like almost like the Frank Miller-esque like brutality,
Yes.
creature of the night, like weaponizing fear kind of thing,
Yeah.
but take away the unlimited resources
Yeah.
and have him just be a guy, just a guy. He's just a guy,
Yeah.
is what it really comes down to.
And I think with Absolute Superman, there is no resemblance besides color scheme and symbol on the chest to what Absolute Superman is compared to the original Superman.
Jeff
Like-
Jones says Absolute Batman was such an awesome process of how dare you, which gives way to how have we never done this so differently before? It hooked me, no pun intended. I still don't know how I feel about those, to be honest with you. But you were saying about Absolute Superman.
So I think with this, with like Absolute Flash, the further they go from just mimicking, because like to me,
Yeah.
Wonder Woman looks different, but she's just Wonder Woman
Oh,
with a, and I'm not
gonna push back on that a little bit, but I'll let you finish what you're saying.
yeah, I'm not bashing it, but like
No, I know.
she is essentially an Amazonian with magical powers. They just leaned a little more into the magic, but she is ultimately a dark Wonder Woman, not a completely different thing as Wonder Woman. The way that Superman is a completely different version of
Oh
Superman.
yeah, Superman's up until Flash and Martian Manhunter and next week Green Lanterns of the original of the first three, Superman was the biggest deviation.
Yeah.
Of the original three, Superman was the biggest deviation. Now I think, I mean, these last three are all so wild between
Yeah.
Flash abandoning Barry Allen, whatever the hell Martian Manhunter's doing, and just based on the preview alone and what we know from the press releases about Absolute Green Lantern, just how different that's going to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, those first three, Superman notwithstanding, were different but still familiar. These other three are so out in left field with the direction they've taken. And
Yeah.
again, in no way, shape, or form is that a criticism. I'm all for
Yeah.
it. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm like, if you're going to do different, do different. Don't do half different and then end up just giving me the same thing at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I will push back on the Wonder Woman thing a little bit. I think with Wonder Woman, she's she's not really an Amazon, because remember, in this one, the Amazons got wiped out, and she was raised by Cersei. And so in this way, like, she's an Amazonian in her blood, and like Cersei raises her to know like she was the last Amazon, but she's really leaning into the magic side more. And they're also, I've noticed, leaning, especially with issue 6, leaning way more into the mythology side of things.
Yes.
Which, if you're someone like me who is super into Greek mythology, and the way you can play with Greek mythology, because Greek mythology is great, but it's also very malleable. You can do a lot with it to fit your own mythos. As someone who's into that, I'm super into what Absolute Wonder Woman's doing.
Yeah.
If that's not your bag, Wonder Woman, I think, is probably the one that's going to have the more narrow scope of audience, because it's taking hey Gronk, hey guys, got it
Later, Bill.
Run a great show. Thanks, man. Absolute Wonder Woman, I think, is going to be the most jarring for audiences, just from the standpoint of, it's not what you go to for if you're looking for Wonder Woman, Amazon warrior princess. That ain't this.
Yeah,
this is Greek mythology, dark magic. Yeah, it's
the things they've been attempting to every so often moderately weave.
Yeah,
they're just like, no, she's in that.
Yeah, with her there being, I will say though, I do appreciate that with issue 6. Issues 1 through 5 were basically, here's all these incredible things she knows and can do, and issue 6 was basically like, here's how.
Yeah.
Issue 6 was basically the lore dump. That's my one criticism with it. It's not my least favorite storytelling technique, but it's like, don't make me wait until the end to understand why this person. It's like, this is all great information I could have used, like, sprinkled in throughout. You had no problem doing that, and they did that with they did that with Wonder Woman through that. It's just all the big stuff they kind of saved for the end, it seemed like. But it's not done yet, and so they clearly, whereas Batman, with issue 6 kinds of ends with a, let's call it not a period, let's call it an ellipsis. Wonder Woman's not really done yet. It's still got a long ways to go. Same with Superman. Superman's got a long ways to go. Batman, I think, because it's gonna be going for, it's probably gonna be the most ongoing one of them so far, because it's been the one selling like crazy. We're probably gonna see more kind of chapters closing before the next one starts.
Definitely.
All right. So where are we sitting now with Absolute DC though, in general? Like obviously Green Lantern hasn't come out yet, but just in general with Absolute DC, how are you feeling so far with this new world they're building us?
I think it's really interesting. I think, now I haven't read Challenges of the Unknown yet, but from my understanding,
me either.
The Challenges of the Unknown book is about them trying to find Darkseid, and Darkseid's the one who created this absolute DC universe.
And everything we've heard so far is that it's
I haven't. I want to read it, especially because those suits are stupidly awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know I needed a pink and white Batman suit, but that's where we are.
I want to read it just for the context more than anything.
But I'm at the point now where, are we going to get And I think I told you this over the phone. It's like, is this a Heroes Reborn situation where it runs for a year or two and then they cut it off and suddenly we're done and it's all gone? Or is this going to be an Ultimate Marvel universe where suddenly it gets so popular, they cherry pick it and bring these guys into the normal DC?
I see now. That I don't think will happen. I think they're going to treat this kind of like an imprint of sorts, which is like, as long as it sells, we will keep doing it.
Yeah.
And the minute it starts losing money, we're going to start pulling back.
Well,
Because
you're right.
again, like I said, these have been the highest selling comics, period.
Yeah.
Like hands down across the
Well,
board.
And you got to think, like, really, look, it's been super hyped and they've done 5 characters. Like, you can do everybody this way. You know, we haven't even finished the Justice League. We haven't seen Aquaman. We haven't seen Green Arrow. We haven't seen Cyborg, Shazam. You know, so this is where I'm like,
There's so many.
Well, just think about.
We did a whole episode about that, guys. We did a whole episode pitching some characters. We'd like to see it. So go back and listen to that when you get a chance, by the way.
But I mean, as far as the big 7, like,
yeah, no, you're right.
Who's normal? Just like, you know, we haven't seen, my boy over here. We haven't seen any new gods yet.
You almost pointed to Captain America.
I know. Where's Captain America? I couldn't break my.
You haven't seen
wrist.
Mr. Miracle. Yeah. Speaking of Matt Fraction, or not Matt Fraction. What the hell?
It's okay. I know you're excited.
I'm so excited for that run.
But no, I think that's the, even if, like, say 2 of these titles don't work and they stop selling, then who knows if we go to an absolute Black Canary or an absolute Raven, just to kind of get a different female character in here.
Yeah.
You know, what does absolute Robin / Nightwing look like?
Not like, I know we're not really doing a lot of news, but we've already seen what absolute Mr. Freeze and absolute Bane are going to look like.
Yeah.
And
Nightmare Fuel.
And apparently Mr. Freeze is going to be like,
do you have a picture of Mr. Freeze to show?
You know what? I might. Let me find one. Vamp a little bit while I find one.
So I think that's the fun of this. Like with the Ultimate Comics, the first version of it, even though they didn't have a lot of titles, they did everybody. I mean, Spider-Man had Iron Fist, his entire Rogues Gallery. You know, Ultimate Spider-Man's where you get the female Doc Ock. You know, that's where Miles Morales comes from. You know,
you're goddamn right. That is.
Who knows when you get a new version of a character here?
Yeah, this is. Look at this. That is something. And apparently he's going to be like the big bad of this arc. Which thank you, Scott Snyder. Thank you. Thank you. That is crazy though. Let me find a picture of Bane.
But no, I think that's the thing, is like, you could really, outside, even if you're just going to do the villains in these storylines, like, you could redo. I mean, look, Batman's Rogue Gallery is 2,000 deep, but his top 10, you could redo them. We still haven't seen the Joker. We saw him for a page in the first issue. He has not come back yet. And
whatever the hell is going on in that final, in that little epilogue at the end, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Whatever the hell that was about. This is, Bane doesn't look that much different, but look at the size of that head.
Yeah, I know.
That is a little tiny head.
That is a big beefy dude.
That is a big man. But I'm also not about to start talking shit about absolute DC and its look or anything anymore, because the last time we did that, we ate some serious crow.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. I'm kind of like, it's like nothing's missed for me yet. Like, for me, it's a, like, if I'm putting something at the bottom of my list, it doesn't mean I think it's bad. It's just, it's my least favorite. Doesn't mean I don't like it. If I had to rank them, I mean, like, I'm gonna leave out Martian Manhunter and just because I don't know what the fuck is going on yet. It's so, guys, it's so weird, but you've got to read it.
Yeah.
It's so weird in it's, I think you said it is when we talk about absolute DC and hey guys, take this character and just go buck wild, these guys understood the assignment. They took that and ran with it. It's so yeah, go check that out. But like I'm having a hard time deciding which one I'm putting first. I really am, because like Absolute Batman, the way it ended, we haven't even talked about it yet. This is a Batman show. We haven't even talked about it yet. Let's talk about how Absolute Batman ended.
It was cool.
He punted a child off of a boat. he drop kicked a child, and I'm not mad.
Mm-mm.
No,
That child deserved it.
that kid
That's
was
what you
going to
get for
kill him.
being a kid.
But hey, he put a life preserver. He put a life preserver on him first, and then kicked him off.
Yes.
And I love that the lady was just like, "I'm out."
Yeah.
She jumped off the boat. She was like,
And he
good.
threw one after.
He's like, "Here, you're good." It takes me back to Mystery of the Batwoman when when the guy opens the door, sees Batman in there, and just goes, "Nope," shuts the door.
Yeah, he shuts the door.
And the guy's like, "Everything good?" "Yeah." "Is he in there?" "Yeah." "All right." And they just walk away. They're like,
Yeah.
"Nope, not our problem." Nope.
Nope. We've already
We didn't see
done
nothing.
that.
Nope. Yep. It's Absolute Batman. I wasn't sure. I mean, we're on the record. We weren't sure going into this what we were gonna think.
Yeah.
And the further we got into it, we kept going like, we were on board, but this could derail at any moment. And I kept waiting for a shoe to drop. I really did. I kept waiting for the next issue to be the one that made me go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I know you were at a weird point with issue 5 because we were like, well, wait, we thought this was supposed to be the end. Well, now issue 6 gave us our end. How are you feeling now that we've actually reached the end of the Zoo storyline for good?
I think for me, and I think all of them seem to be doing this, especially with how the latest issue of Superman is I'm glad you gave me the origin and the current story congruently. We're done.
Yeah.
Give me the story now. Do the next story like this, Mr. Freeze. If you want to give me Mr. Freeze re-origin, okay, but we don't need to go revisit back to Batman's origin anymore. We know who he is. We know what he's going to do. We know what he's like. Let's see him deal now with this next villain.
And we touched on this when we talked about this when we thought it was done. Egg on our face. Just kind of echo what I said in that, which is like, I think.
Thanks, Mike Jones.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. I really do think that we are kind of done with that. Like, the story was called The Zoo. The story of the Zoo is over. We're not going to see this stuff anymore.
With Superman, it ends with him.
Yeah,
he's on Earth now.
Yeah,
we've gotten that whole story of how he ended up leaving Krypton.
Right.
We're probably not going to see the Jor-El and Laurel anymore.
No, we know allegedly they could still be out there.
Yeah, which I like.
That'd be different. I thought for a second they were about to tell us that they were. I was like, yo, are they new Asgarding the Kryptonians? Are they all on Earth and we don't know it? But then when it was like, no, he's still the last one. It's like, oh,
allegedly.
Okay. I still don't know how I feel about his AI just kind of nonchalantly being like, okay, his name's Brainiac. He's got all these cities miniatured down and shrunken things, but none of that matters right now. No.
I don't mind that because to me that ended with, and now you're gonna have to deal with it.
We'll see. Yeah. I really hope so. But with Absolute Batman, I'm really. Did we know before issue 6 that all the kids that were with him were the friends, like Eddie and Waylon and all them? Did we know that, or was that just in the dream?
I think it's a general.
I'd have to go back and reread issue 1 again.
I think kind of assumed some of them, but it was not it was never said because I don't think he ever says the names of the other children.
Okay.
So-
I may have somebody who's read it in the comments can maybe let me know. I may have missed it, but
I think it may be the general conceit that you could have taken if you were paying attention. I did not capture that, but I was also not like, oh, it was just like, oh yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
for me that was more of like I wasn't like blown away. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, I guess I had more of a reaction of like, was I supposed to know that?
yeah.
But what a way to what a way
Understand
to
why they're tight.
understand, yeah, to really address why this group isn't so much the rogues gallery yet, because one of our questions has been going in is how are these guys gonna wind up being, is this Batman is not gonna
And
have
are
these
they?
villains? But now several of them already know that he's Batman.
Yeah.
He doesn't give a shit, and it's created a rift,
Yeah.
especially with Oz. Oz is the first one that's like, after this, we're done. Like, I don't want to know anything about this anymore. Like, so that's an interesting way of setting up some different villain origins of like, they've got a vendetta against Batman because they know each other.
Yeah.
That's
They don't agree with what he's doing. Who knows?
it's a different way of looking at it. And also shout out to Batman just straight up stabbing Black Mask in the face. Didn't see that coming
Yeah, I was like, okay.
at all, but he didn't kill him. Don't know
Well,
what he
and
did.
and
Well, I mean,
I
he was
also-
stabbed in the eyes
yeah.
and not die, I guess.
Yes, as long as you don't go through the cavity into the brain, it's okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't ask me why I know that. So
Glossing.
so yeah, I think this is where doing an origin, starting something new, and then just having the free reign to do with it as you please. Again, like kind of almost going back to the Batman cartoon. Who says they're villains?
True.
Just because it's Oswald Cobblepot and it's Killer
Yeah.
Croc, maybe they get their powers and they don't become villains. I mean, that was the coolest thing about that Clayface cop from the Batman is like he becomes Clayface, he becomes misunderstood, and then rehabilitates and he stays friends with Batman and ends up fighting the other Clayface, you know, and like stuff like that where
I
I'm like,
think it's weird.
it is weird. But I mean, I think that's where this can be fun is if you don't have to resort to, because I think that was what that original Marvel's Ultimates, that's what we were talking about on the phone earlier, is that after a couple of years, it just became they were the same as they were in the normal comics. And then at that point, why have an Ultimate Universe if it's just the same stories? It's just the same thing. Like, do something different. And I think that's what they've done really, really well with this Absolute stuff is like, even the stuff that's not as different as I would have liked, it's still different enough that you're not going to have to default to, I don't believe this version of Wonder Woman is suddenly one day going to wear the one piece bathing suit version of Wonder Woman's costume and be like, hey, I'm now blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's going to happen.
Especially
And
now
it
when you
should.
find out she's got a magical prosthetic arm.
Yeah. So,
Ooh.
so that's where I think it'll be cool to see like a year from now, I'm going to be intrigued as what this storyline is.
I'm inclined to rescind an earlier statement I made in an earlier episode.
Okay.
I don't see a Justice League forming. I'm starting down the path of I don't necessarily see a Justice League forming, or at
if
least not out of this current group.
Well, because again, not push it back, but mentioning like up until Grant Morrison's JLA, Justice League was not the big seven.
Mm.
So there's nothing that says the Absolute Justice League has to have Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, Flash,
Right.
Green Lantern, blah, blah.
No, I know. I'm just saying I had said in several episodes before, like, oh, I can see these guys like I can see this Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman fighting together. But now with this Flash and this Martian Manhunter, it's like these stories are so isolated.
Yeah.
That I don't see that happening. Ryan Lane, gee, congrats on getting to 150. I wonder who that is.
I don't know, but she's freaking hot as all get out. I bet she makes beautiful children and makes a great wife.
Gross, you're disgusting. You disgust me. Disgust me. Look, man, that's Matt's wife, everybody, in case that wasn't clear. Darn
tootin'.
Darn tootin', she said. I love it. I love it. Yeah, man. And man, I gotta tell you, I don't even know how to get back into the show at this point. We do need to start. We're gonna start wrapping up here. We are coming up on 2 hours. You know, I mean,
if anybody has any questions, pop them in now. Because
if you guys want
after this,
if you guys want to throw any stuff at us, anything you want to ask us about, want to talk about, we're going to. It's not your fault, Ryan. You're fine. This handsome hunk of man you are attached to, that you're stuck with. Let's talk a little bit about I guess just first of all, guys, thank you to everybody who has been hanging out with us throughout this whole thing. We really appreciate it. You know, we've seen several people saying congrats in the chat. You know, we did not realize like 150 episodes, and then it did when it dawned on us like
that's 3 years.
Oh shit, we've been doing this for 3 fucking years. Oh my god. Like yeah, we started this like right when I was living in my old place, and we've now had, you know, a DC Comics writer on twice. And
did you think when you tweeted out that nonsense that this is where we would be?
Not even a bit.
For those who don't know, Mike and I knew each other through the Top 10 podcast. He'd been on my show twice, I think, by then. Yes, you've been on
3
twice.
times, yeah.
And then he basically put out a tweet. Is that how he said?
I don't know where I put it out. I posted it online. I was just like, look, it's something to the effect of, I love Batman. I want someone to just do a Batman podcast with, to just be good vibes, friendly conversation.
Yeah.
You know, just the internet best friends DC Batman podcast.
I don't even think you were that specific.
No, it was just like, I just want someone to do a Batman podcast. I knew what I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But like, and that's kind of the pitch I gave you when you reached out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
I literally was like, I'm listening.
Yeah. because I knew, because it's and I'm very much, you know, part of this. Like, you know, it was the height of, you know, MCU hype, and it was COVID, and, you know, I just felt like, you know, there was all the release, the Snyder Cut stuff, and the Batman had been out in theaters, and it was just like, I wanted just some more. And I'm also a big believer of, like, I was looking for a specific kind of DC podcast to listen to, and I couldn't find one.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, then screw it. I'm going to make one. I'm going to make the one I want to listen to. And, you know, I was worried it was going to be a like trial run of just finding people who were and weren't going to work out. And, you know, Matt and I had done Fanboy Junction stuff together, but we didn't know each other.
Yeah.
You know, we knew each other as from being fans of the Top 10 show and the Cinephiles and you know, the Schmodown and things like that, when those were still, you know, again, just at the peak of that hype. So yeah, cut to 3 years later, and Scott Beatty is saying, I've got stuff to announce. I'll let you know. Yeah. Like that's, you know, and you know, yeah, it's cool to me. It's nice to finally like have. I'm a guy who's had a lot of projects and has a lot of projects, and it's nice to have one that I look at that doesn't feel like work, that's just fun, and I get to do it with a buddy. You know.
You don't have to go that far. No.
All right, fuck you. Show's over.
No, and I've told you this before. It's like, you know, like I've done several different podcasts in different ways. Fanboy Junction 3 different ways, other things different ways, and it really is difficult Hey, shut up.
For 16 years, he started our relationship with Harley Quinn. That is for another episode.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Why don't you? It's too bad we can't dial her in so she can sing the song. What was that song that you had to sing? We got to find that video.
There is
But,
1,000%. There are 1,000 ways we could dial her in to do that, but we'll do that another time.
But no, it was it was a relief. I hate to be this way, but like to just mesh and have fun and be on the same page 90% of the time of what we're trying to do. And not that the 10% has been bad. It's just more of like the things we don't agree on with certain movies or comics. But I mean, like having fun and doing this ride together has been a blast. And can't wait for 150 more and beyond because we ain't stopping.
Yeah, no, well, although I will say in 300, when we get to 300 episodes, if we're still not making money,
there may not be a 301.
There may not be a 301.
But comment below if you want Mike and I to team up and make a new Nightwing trailer.
Shut up. Well, going for so I hinted that. So again, I know we're
yeah, we got to wrap it
now. So so some stuff we're going to be doing going forward. We're going to be covering more current comic book stuff first and foremost. I mean, you guys have made that abundantly clear with your views and your subs. That's what you guys are wanting to see, and we love doing it. I have honestly, it has been very refreshing having a pull list at my comic book store again and going back in every so often and getting a bunch and sitting down, especially now that the weather is getting nice again, thank God, and being able to just sit and read a bunch of comics and have. Now I can read these comics and I have an outlet to talk about how good they are and not just sit there and just be like, oh, that was a good read. And nobody cares. And nobody around me to talk about it with. So it's fun. It's fun. And also this is just a brag. I'm in a position now where I can afford to buy comic books again. So it's also nice because when I was collecting them before, I was making no money and I was going into debt on comic books. So so we are going to be covering like the absolute. And so next week's episode will not be Absolute Green Lantern. We've got some other stuff. Matt's got some personal stuff going on. So next week's episode is going to be a little bit of a surprise. We will cover Absolute Green Lantern the week after and get caught up on that. And then we're going to just try and stay not week to week current because these are monthly books, but like every month we're going to try and get caught up on everything with Absolute DC and see how things are going. Also like with the Hush sequel going on. Whenever we get to the new Batman #1 relaunching there as well, and just as other stuff comes up, that's hot with DC and Batman and all that. We're gonna do some more live streams like this and stuff as well. Let's say once a month we'll do something. We have a few ideas. One of the things we're gonna think about doing is I remember when DC Online first launched and I tried it and I hated it. It was awful. The character creation was great, but I hated the game. And I recently found out that it's available on the Switch and it's gone to like a massive update and people are apparently saying it's actually a lot of fun now. I pitched the idea to Matt of like, what if we played DC Online and created characters together? I then found out that apparently Matt has logged several hours to say the least on this game.
When it first came out, I lived it for a bit. Yes. I think I got like 5 characters to level 30. Yeah.
So we're gonna do some streams of playing DC Online, do whatever, DC Universe Online, whatever the hell it's called. Which is gonna be me playing, and because Matt's played before. So it'll be me playing and kind of getting acquainted with it, and Matt will be there with his character to kind of be there to shepherd me along because like Matt's not a gamer, I'm not a gamer. I play Mario, I play, but so we're gonna do some stuff like that. I got some Batman Legos I've been wanting to build, so we're gonna do more stuff like that, give you guys more opportunities to hang out, interact with us, chat with us, and stuff like that. And there was something else we were going.
I was gonna say,
Thank you.
given the fan film that we reacted to, the fan
Yes.
films we have reacted to, if you guys out there have fan films that you want us to look and check out, we will do it. And I will say this: if we watch it and we don't like it, and you've never seen an episode talking about that fan film, it's because we are too nice.
Yeah.
And we don't want to shit talk your film because
We
we
are
know
not-
how
we-
hard it is to make one.
Yes. Look, we all watched Matthews. I don't have a Batman one for us to watch. I never made one actually. But I have some crappy independent films out there. I have some good ones, but I have some crappy ones too. So we are not ones to I don't like to shit on people's work,
Yeah.
So there are some that we have watched. Part of the reason we didn't put one up this month is because we had one we watched it and we were done. We were like, yeah, we have nothing nice to say about this.
Yeah.
Let's not put this up on the internet. Because we're not, we as much as yes, we will be honest in our reviews of things. If it's a reaction video, we don't want to just have our whole reaction just us going, what the hell is this? So if we ever don't react to yours, one you've suggested to us, doesn't mean we didn't watch it. Might just mean we really didn't like it.
Yeah.
So don't take it personally. But yeah, if there is anything you guys want us to watch, we are toying with the idea of, because we've done review coverage of My Adventures with Superman and Batman Cape Crusader and Creature Commandos. We are toying with the idea of reacting to season 3 of My Adventures with Superman. We have to see what that's going to look like logistically from a technology standpoint, because just to give you guys a little behind the curtain, Matt has to do this from his office because Matt's internet at home, no es bueno. and we are in different and we are in different time zones. Not just different cities, different time zones. So it's not like we can just go to each other's place and watch together. So if we can figure out a more or less painless way to do that, we're going to give it a shot. That's going to take some experimenting, because it's one thing to do YouTube reactions. Most of the big streaming sites have ways to prevent you from screen. So we're gonna figure some stuff out. We didn't even have a release date for it yet, so we've got some time. So, but keep an eye out for stuff like that. And if there's ever any stuff you guys want us to cover or talk about or anything like that, we put it up online today, and we're going to leave it up infinitum. Just a general questions, comments, whatever form. You guys fill that out. We haven't done a general Q&A episode in a while, and we'd like to do one again. We love doing those with you guys. Thank you to the guys who sent some questions in, to those questions in earlier. Anytime you guys send those in, we'd love to answer them on here. I don't think there's anything else.
I think we are
I think we-
there. Hold on.
it's
Let me
10:08.
see. Beep, beep, beep,
I'm
beep,
a
beep,
little
beep,
hungry.
beep. Nope.
So-
Let's go eat.
Thank you guys so much for celebrating 150 episodes with us. We can't thank you enough, really and truly. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep doing fun stuff as long as you guys will have us. If you have not already, please subscribe to the channel. You get the podcast, you get the other videos we do, all that stuff. Follow us on all the social medias at WATB Pod. You can find me on social media at Mr. Mike Shea.
You can find me across all social media at the Hasso Band.
That is going to do it for this episode of We Are the Batman. We will see you guys again next time. Same bad time, same bad podcast channel.
Bye-bye.